I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I keep my eyes wide open all the time. I keep the ends out for the tie that binds. Because you're mine, I walk the line.
Shane Buettner. We're at Gig Harbor Audio in the beautiful Gig Harbor, which is about 40 minutes southwest of Seattle, just near Tacoma in a way, across the straits. Cool store. There's like behind it, there's a cool little wine bar setup they have here.
And a very analog-centric store.
Yeah, very analog-centric. Although I think you can get security systems installed as a separate portion of their business here. But it's a really cool vibe. It's like coming to somebody's living room and checking out music. So check that out. They do still have some records here, including some of the interventions. So Shane's here, and we're going to talk about Sun Records.
This is so new. We've got the official done complete jacket with a test pressing stuffed inside it. I don't even have my own copies of the records yet.
So let's talk about these records, how they came about, and how did you get involved with Sun Records?
In the most amazing fashion possible. So a couple of years ago, we had some talks. They're wonderful people over there. And we had some really, really good talks. I really like those folks a lot. The project we talked about didn't come to fruition, but apparently they thought it went really well too. And they called me in August of last year and said they had some very important anniversaries coming up, and they were looking for a hi-fi partner to do premium releases. And in particular, what they were really excited about was December of 25 was the 70th anniversary of the recording of Blue Suede Shoes. Sam Phillips and Carl Perkins went in the studio, recorded Blue Suede Shoes in December, and it was released as a single on January 1st of 56. But they really wanted Dance Album to come out in some version, and they came to me in August and they said, do you think you could have product in the stores in December, which from my perspective is a real microwave job of really getting a lot done fast. And I said, look, I said two things. You got to have great sounding tapes, and then everything is going to have to break just right. The way that I do this is very time consuming. And the other thing going into it is I was really ignorant of Sun's history. I knew Carl's songs. I knew the Beatles were enthralled. I knew they'd covered a lot of. What I did not know was that all the great Carl Perkins songs, in a sense, are on Dance Album. The ones that people know, the ones that got covered by the Beatles, later by Johnny Cash and other people. And so it was really like a quick education for me, and it was helped out in no small part. Michael Fremer told me about a guy named Colin Escott and kind of put me down the path of connecting with Colin. Colin, it turns out, I couldn't believe that this name didn't ring a bell for me. He'd written a great biography of Hank Williams that I read called I Saw the Light or something like that. And then he wrote a book about Sun Records. And he's kind of the guy. He served, and it turned out that later as I'm looking at these tapes that Sun had, Colin's name is all over these things. There are handwritten notes from Colin going back to the 80s, from when he was helping different outfits out compile different things for Sun Records. So Colin really helped educate me, because the first thing is, I just had to go through all this stuff. Like, has anybody redone this stuff? These are the tapes that they have. Has anybody ever compiled? Like, so one of the things that it was not there were any A-B reels. Like, you need to cut a record. Records are cut continuously, on one side at a time. So for a standard record, you got an A reel and a B reel. Well,
these were a lot of singles.
They were singles.
Yeah,
and that's really, in a sense, this is very much a compilation.
It's a hit single.
Yes, a hit singles compilation. Sam Phillips really thought that the LP was a fad. I think that was going to go away. And what's interesting is so I'm looking at these tapes, and the first thing I had to decipher is they all say Shelby Singleton Corporation, and they have these late 60s dates, and I'm like, well, these don't seem like original tapes. Well, yes, they are. Shelby Singleton had a huge hit song with Harper Valley PTA, bought Sun Records, and they started taking
Jeannie C. Riley.
Yeah, his secretary, from what I understand.
Oh, really?
That's what I hear, right?
Wow.
So all these 7-inch singles, they just started compiling them onto larger tape reels, but again, not in any discernible order. And the bottom line is that from the research that I did and talking to Colin and other people, and of course the people at Sun Today, it didn't look like anybody had cut these amazing records to vinyl from tape since at least the 80s, maybe earlier than that. So, okay, I've got a lane. Then it's like, okay, how do the tapes sound? And the bottom line is they had beautiful sounding tapes. What they had were all these different tapes with several versions of each song. And they had gone through and kind of said, okay, we think these are the best sounding versions. Now, in a lot of cases, they probably are the master. In some cases, they might not be. All we can determine today is these are the best sounding versions of each song on a master tape that exists. And we made new master tapes.
Does Sun have their own tape archive, or they do use Iron
So
Mountain?
they work with Iron Mountain. So it was a real team effort between Kelly Pribble at the time was running the team at Iron Mountain. Chase Gregory is my now my good friend and my contact at Sun. They'd send me scans that showed each tape box, what was on the tapes, and then wave files. And I basically went through with headphones and listened to these high-res wave files. And I'd say on almost all the songs, we agreed on what was the best sounding versions. A few that we disagreed, I just made a different choice, a different request. We double-checked with each other. And then Iron Mountain made us, Iron Mountain's invested a lot of money in being able to make really beautiful tape copies. And that's what we work from basically from newly made master tapes.
More than half the songs were either done by the Beatles or the Beatles solo.
Every single song on this album was eventually covered by
between
the Beatles.
Ringo and the live piece in Toronto with John Lennon, and of course the Beatles stuff. And apparently Carl Perkins was even in the studio with the Beatles when they recorded a couple of his songs. So I've never owned this record as in this form. This is the original cover. I just never owned it. Years later, I got CD editions. I think
one of the fun parts, All Mama's Children is on the front and is not on the record. Dance album, we had done it in red, and I'll be honest,
nobody noticed.
Everybody agrees that it looked better in red, and nobody noticed.
Yeah.
We didn't notice until we were on press. We had to pull the plates. The guys at Stoughton, Rob Maushin is my guy at Stoughton, and he's, like I said, I end up getting a lot of credit for this stuff, but the Johnny is a perfect example. Rob, I couldn't fly down to be there when they were on press. Rob did this one by himself, and I mean, this is just gorgeous. And this is such a piece of rock history, not that I didn't, but I'm so meticulous about the artwork. I really feel like it's just as important as the sound and the music and everything. But these are such iconic albums and so much history behind them. I really felt an extra sense of urgency to really, and I've got these Colin Escott and a guy who did some research for his book with him, Hank Davis up in Canada, really helped me a lot. Looking at all the colors, we came to the agreement that they really love this baby blue color. We worked from high-res scans that had yellowed significantly over time. So getting this baby blue color right, trying to get the blue suede shoes blue, not purple. Really making this orange pop enough, but not too much. Making sure that you could see that with hot is in orange and blue is in, that baby blue color. We really...
The attention to detail is pretty amazing.
Now, and the fans deserve this.
I feel I've been listening to the test pressings for a few weeks now, and then of course the Carl Perkins, and I told you I've never had these albums in this form, in the complete form as they were released at the time. I don't have originals, but in the 70s I picked up 13 volumes of those Charlie Sun records, but they're comps. They're all comps.
Yes.
And even compared to those, and my guess is those are late 70s, so those are obviously from analog tapes sent to UK. Charlie's a UK label. They don't sound anywhere near as good as these, but they're fun records. Again, this is like a live show in your room, especially the way they're recorded with that slapback.
Sam's famous slapback echo with two tape machines. From what I understand, it's the way he accomplished that.
It must have surprised you when you first heard these tapes.
You know what? It floored me. I mean, Kevin Gray and I have worked together a lot. We've heard so many great master tapes together. I keep, I don't think the two of us have just sat there looking at each other and smiled as much as we did when we were listening to these tapes and these records. And Kevin has never done this before. A blues guitarist named Deke Dickerson lives in Kevin's neighborhood. He invited Deke over while we were mastering. Kevin's never invited anybody over when we're mastering, just to hear these tapes. It turns out he's a fountain of information. And I had records there, and one of the things he clued me in on was that Sun used two different versions of center labels, and one that you see on a lot of reissues is one that shows the rooster, and not just these, kind of the rays of the sun, as you could say. It turned out that they actually had like kind of a, I don't know if it's a process or what you want to call it, but the singles had the rooster, but the LPs were this version with just the sun rays. So that's how authentic we got, even to the center labels, in every last detail. And the other thing, Colin Escott did these great, liner notes, and one of the things, that is the UK version of Dance Album. They decided they did not like the original artwork at all, so they picked this really, I'll be frank, unflattering picture of Carl for reasons that are all their own.
That guy has 3 stills in his backyard
instead of this one, right? But we, as Colin explains, he did this because this was rock and roll to the Beatles, and this was the way they saw the album art.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
You did a first pressing. The first pressing, the Carl Perkins, sold out, and so you're on press now for the second round.
And I've ordered a third. Yeah.
A third? Wow. So there's a demand for it.
I under-ordered, yes. This has been the most wonderful surprise. I had never done a mono record. I'd never done anything going as far back as the 50s. And Carl was really, in a way, kind of the wild card, because I think he's one of those artists where people know his songs from other people doing them. The other thing that floored me is just, I heard somebody say recently, talking about how alive these albums are. Carl's versions of his own songs have a life and a swagger to them that I just think is his own, and really hooked me and made me many people. The most frequent comment I've got from people who've heard this album is, this type of music is really not like my regular diet, so to speak. But oh my God, is this like this is the one record of its type that people should have. I don't think anyone's ever really heard what Sam put on tape, the magic he put on those tapes, and how great a recording engineer he was, until not as fully as they do in these versions.
And Carl Perkins, he sounds so joyous, and compared to Johnny Cash, who's is a totally different thing. Johnny Cash has the deeper voice. Carl Perkins probably has the tenor. They're similar in a certain way, this whole $1 Million Quartet thing, and obviously you're not going to have Elvis Presley songs out, records out, because of the Elvis date. There might be some other Sun artists, but so Carl Perkins, you're on your third pressing, and then we go into Out Now, this Johnny Cash, and I put that on, and as much as I love the Carl Perkins, when I put this on, and I realize it's because he's got that low, more or less a baritone. We all know the famous "Hello, I'm Johnny Cash," and tell me why you picked this to start out with, and the differences of these two, if there was one when you were working with Kevin on it and putting this out.
Well, the process was exactly the same. I went through every single song, to make sure that, Son and I were aligned on what the best sounding versions of everything were. Again, the team at Iron Mountain made amazing, just great tapes. Colin pointed this out in his liner notes, and it's really, worth thinking of through this lens. Sam really got a feel for Johnny, and what you hear here is Johnny with no backing vocals. It's Johnny in the room in a way that I don't think anyone ever heard Johnny in the room again until Rick Rubin's American.
And these are live recordings, aren't they? Are there any overdubs? Do you know?
Gosh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, I know it was very simple. I can't say that I know that level of detail, but I could say this: it's got this. What the Carl Perkins recordings in these have in common is that very, in the room energy. It's a physical presence.
Right.
That's what I'll say about it.
Okay.
And you have that in spades in this record. So to your point, Johnny's just got a deeper voice. He had a very terrific band, the Tennessee Two. But you don't hear their backing vocals the way you do on some. There are other recordings, of course, Johnny Cash, where you hear them, and they actually do some beautiful harmonies and things. But this record, Colin's got in the liner notes says something great, that it just sounds like, Johnny Cash has just got this like presence of God voice in the room that is just utterly commanding.
You have Folsom Prison Blues on here, and you have I Walk the Line, two of his songs that would become like iconic songs.
Yeah, that he'd play for the rest of his career.
Right. These are cut at 45, but they're still
on a single 12-inch.
They're still a single record.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Luck. They're mono records, and they're relatively short, and we literally didn't have to change a thing. So when you're cutting and you go through what we call the rundown, and that's where you nail down the EQ and the levels, right? And then you always do a dry run. And basically, the lathe runs at the speed with all the EQ and level choices in, and that's when you know for sure that it's going to fit, because Kevin likes to space the grooves out as wide as he can, and for maximum fidelity and sound quality. And with both of these records, because of the fact that they're relatively short program material and mono, both records fit without making a single change.
Okay.
So I am very proud of that, because I will tell you, I think we were talking earlier, I buy a lot of records in addition to making records. I'm a voracious consumer of them. I buy a lot of $150 records like the rest of us do, but I got to be honest, I was very proud to make $40 and $43 records that I am telling you, these could not sound any better no matter what I did to them. There isn't any vinyl formulation that's any quieter or sounds any better. There isn't any process. This is a full 3-step process at 45 RPM on a single 12-inch, and they could not sound any better than.
And where are these pressed?
Gotta Groove Records in Ohio by Matt Early and his team.
Okay.
That's my partner in pressing, and they just do a beautiful job.
Okay.
And that's a point you were talking earlier about, these pressings. I'm kind of the master of what I call the unlimited special edition. If people keep buying them, I'll keep pressing them. Part of Gotta Groove's pricing with their 180 is they replace the stampers every 500 units. There are no hot stampers. The 10th pressing is going to sound just as good as, in fact, I'll go ahead and tell people, I didn't save a copy of Carl Perkins for myself from the first pressing run. I asked Norman to bring his over so I'd actually have a copy of the record to show with the center label, because I'm getting mine out of the second run. So they're all going to sound the last will sound just as beautiful as the first.
Okay, so I'm going to put a link below in the description to Interventions. These are on sale. Do you sell these retail too, or is it all direct?
I literally try to make it as easy as possible. So the best way to support the label is buying direct, because I get the full boat retail hit, and I frankly wouldn't make it and keep being able to do what I do without getting as many
margin's not as
full
straight.
boats. No, it's a cash intensive, low margin
Support
business.
independent artists.
Yeah, it really is that, right? And like I said, I don't have any partners or money people. I've got a great system of retailers. Acoustic Sounds is a great partner of mine. They'll do a great job of packaging it for you.
And so do you, by the way.
We've gotten better over the years,
I get a sticker too. Do you
get a sticker?
Does everyone get a sticker?
To everyone? Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and we take that seriously, because look, I really take seriously that in an Amazon era, people are willing to pay more for shipping and wait a little longer to buy directly from us. That's an honor. I really impress that on my team, that hey, we got to get these out quickly and safely, and packed really, really well. So we've got custom LP shippers that we use, and we take that part of things very, very seriously.
Now, in closing, any Easter eggs, or I assume you're going to continue with Sun and do some more Sun titles.
I'm absolutely.
Do you think in year 2026 there'll be any other titles?
Yes, unequivocally. There's definitely more coming.
More than one?
I can't.
Under 3?
Let's knock on wood.
So it won't. It won't. Okay.
But no, I mean, I could tell my fan. Like, there's a project that I started last year. It's not with Sun, but I've been working directly with an artist. It's been a terrific experience. I can't announce it yet because things got to be done.
I've noticed in the last few years, an artist I was surprised who's on Sun is Chris Isaac. And Chris Isaac, they've released some of his Warner Brothers records on Sun Records. And he did actually a record of Sun songs. I don't know if you've heard that. It's great. It's like it was a CD, and I think they put it on, maybe it was Record Store Day vinyl, but it's him doing.
Well, we share this, right? I mean, Chris is a Bay Area guy.
Exactly. Stockton and San Francisco.
Yeah, I've actually been on a few different streams talking about, I've never worked harder to try to get an artist catalog than I worked.
Well, here's the one record that no one's put out on, as far as I know, on vinyl, the Baja Sessions.
Oh, right.
Which is very acoustic.
Yes.
It's kind of like unplugged.
Yes, it is.
Warner Brothers. I guess Warner doesn't have it anymore, but Sun might have it.
They might. And
hello, Sun. This is Shane from Intervention. How's Chris doing? Is he still surfing?
Listen, all I could say is I've been very public about the fact that I've made as many runs as I can. I've gotten to his management team several times. It hasn't happened yet, but it's the old Jim Carrey. There's always a chance, right?
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.